Thank you so much for being here. My name is Jared Benoff. I'm from Twitter and our DC office where we focus on government and politics. Today we're going to cover a few things, namely campaign strategy. How do you build a successful campaign on Twitter? What does that look like? What steps does it take to build that? How do you measure your success on Twitter? And then we'll dive into a case study so you can see, taking it from a high level and actually seeing a tangible example of what that successful campaign looks like. So before we dive in, I think probably a good place to start as the agenda. Twitter today. Have people heard of Twitter? Maybe a show of hands. Oh, okay, great. Thanks for coming, and I think we're good here. But Twitter today is a lot different than where it was a year ago, where it was 10 years ago when we started as a platform. A lot of people pull it out in the morning, they see what's going on in the world today, what is happening. And that's how we look at Twitter. It's what's happening. So take a quick look at a video, actually before the video, looking at Twitter in the world. So where we are as a platform today, about 319 million monthly active users, 500 million tweets every day. That's a lot of tweets every single day. So part of what we're going to cover today is how do you break through that noise? How do you make sure that your campaigns and your tweets have an impact? And then finally, 1 billion unique visits to sites with tweets. So that's a huge network of people that are seeing tweets that aren't actually looking at tweets on their phones within the app. They're seeing it on ESPN.com, they're seeing it on CNN.com, they're seeing it on weather.com. They're seeing it around the internet. Twitter is a part of the internet. And so we need to think about, as part of your campaign strategy, how do you make sure those tweets are seen throughout the internet ecosystem? You hit play, please.
What's happening? What's happening in the world? What's everyone talking about? What's trending? How did it start?
We must love each other, protect each other.
When will it end? See what's happening in the world right now.
So as I mentioned, Twitter is what's happening. Advance to the next slide, please. When you pull out Twitter every morning or every night or throughout the day, and you go into the trending topics and you see what's going on, you can see exactly what's happening every single day. You can see those trending conversations, those trending topics. You can literally search Twitter to see what's happening. And so I pulled this screenshot the other day when the Senate hearings were going on, and right at the top you see that live video. So you can immerse yourself into that content live on Twitter. You see the trending topics. You can click into them and search for what people are saying around those topics. All right, taking it now into the campaign strategy, how do you think about those trending topics and now make it about you? Make it about the content that you're producing and reaching the audiences that you want to reach. To do that, we're going to go on a little road trip together. So I want everyone to be safe and think about making sure the car is ready and it's safely equipped. You want to make sure that there aren't any issues with the tires, things like that. And so take a little road trip together. First, hashtag goals, right? Got to start at the top of what's the goal of your road trip. When you're thinking about your campaign, everything comes back to this one central point. Rebecca covered this perfectly. She said, does anyone remember the goal of the Interior Department's social media strategy?
People love the park.
Exactly, to make people love public lands. That's a very clear goal that we all remember, right? She said that from the onset, and everything maps back to that one goal. So when you think about your campaign strategies, think about what is that goal for you? What is that goal for your organization? And so keeping with the analogy, what is the goal for your road trip? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to see? Where do you want to go? And then you want to be able to define that goal. What is that primary goal? Is it that you want to grow your audience? Do you want to do one-to-one customer engagement? Do you want to drive impressions for a new video that you just released? Do you want external press coverage for a new announcement that you just made? You need to define that goal in a very clear way so that everything else can map back to that primary goal. Second, you need to think about why should you invest your time and resources. We are all busy people. We all have a lot to do. There are tons of social media channels. There's a million things you can do every single day. So why should you invest your time and your resources into that initiative, that event, that campaign? Why does it matter to your organization? Why does it matter to your mission? And third, how does this align to your organization goals? It's bigger than just one tweet, right? It's bigger than just one tweet storm. How does this all map? How does your goal map into your larger campaign, to your larger organization, to your team goals? Next, after your goal, you want to think about your plan. So this is the meat and potatoes of how you get that campaign off the ground. This is what will it take to get to your destination? What car are you going to take? Who's coming with you? You know, who's going to sit shotgun and help navigate for you? How are you going to get to where you need to go? When do you need to leave the house? How early? Do you need to grab breakfast on the way? All these questions that come up as you're planning your road trip and your campaign. So first step in mapping your plan is your stakeholders. You need to get everyone on board with your plan, both internally and externally. Is there a deputy assistant secretary who needs to approve every tweet that's sent? Is there a chief of staff that you need to give a heads up that this campaign is launching? Is there an intern that you need them to help grab photos? Is there an influencer on the outside who you want them to help amplify your campaign? Thinking about all the stakeholders who need to be involved and helping bring them together so that they can be part of this broader campaign. Second, tactics. These are the tools that you're going to use. What will you use to get to that goal? Are you going to do a tweet storm? Will you do media content? Will you focus on live video? These are the tools that you're actually using to help map back to that goal again so that you can reach that goal and be able to measure that success. And finally, looking at what does success look like, you need to know what are the key results. Before you get on to your road trip, before you start your campaign strategy, you need to think about what are we even looking for? What is the key result that we want to get out of this? What metric matters to make sure that we are able to succeed? And then you have your tactics, right? This chart kind of lays out some different goals and tactics and tools that you can use for your campaigns, but there are tons of options out there. You have live video content, you have media content, you can do tweet storms, you can do replies. There are tons of different tools out there to help you reach your goals, and it's identifying the ones that will help you reach that goal and the metrics that matter for those tools. So again, key results. How are you going to measure the tactics to meet your goals? For example, volume. Are you trying to increase the number of tweets? Are you trying to increase the number of video tweets, of photo tweets? What matters for that goal? How can you reach that result? And would volume be the best way to measure that? Second, maybe reach. Maybe you're just going to do that one tweet, and that's all you want to focus on. You want to think about, are we trying to increase the impressions? Do we want to see how many people are actually seeing our content? Do you care about the number of video views? Did you just spend the last 6 months working on this amazing video, and all you want to drive is video views to that one video? Maybe it's a video completion rate. You created this short, snackable video, if you will, and you want to make sure that people see that whole video. Third, earned media. Maybe it's not about the on-platform experience for people. You want to drive the external press coverage. You want the press to pick up that you just made this great announcement, and you want to make sure that they see it, and you're going to measure your success based on the external press coverage. Competition. You want to look at how is this performing on other platforms. How does this compare to other campaigns that you've done on other platforms? It's okay to think about the competition. How do other organizations do a similar campaign? So thinking about what is the competitive advantage that you have and how can your campaign map to that as a key result? Relationships. Maybe the key result isn't really quantifiable like Rebecca was saying, but it's more qualitative. Maybe it's you made inroads with a partner that you've been trying to connect with for a long time and were able to leverage an influencer to help join your campaign. That might be an immeasurable metric for you, but it'll help you down the road. And it was something that your team was focused on from the onset. These are 5 different types of key results that you can measure. And being able to know which one matters to you will help you know if your goal was reached. There are always the oh crap moments. Rebecca highlighted this perfectly, and we've all been there. Before I joined Twitter, I worked at the Labor Department doing social media. I had plenty of oh crap moments, just like Rebecca mentioned. It happens, right? There's no way to avoid that. But it's knowing what to do when you hit those detours that matters. Who's your AAA contact? Who are you going to call? Who's your emergency contact, right? Who can you contact that'll make sure that they'll get you out of this mess, that'll help you drive in the right direction and steer you in the right direction when you've hit that moment? For your team, what does that mean? What happens if you tweet something that has a typo? What's the protocol that's in place? Do you delete the tweet? Do you reply to the tweet and say, so sorry about the typo, update it here? It's knowing those things in advance that can help propel your strategy and make these unexpected moments more expected. And always, we are here to help. We have the support page at support.twitter.com where you can file tickets and send them to our team, and we can help triage those support tickets for you. And the best way to get in touch with our team is by going to gov@twitter.com and shoot us an email, and we'll help point you in the right direction if you run into any of these obstacles. Again, that's gov@twitter.com, and that's the best way to reach our team. Another thing I want to mention here while we're on the support page is safety on Twitter. I'm sure you've seen the press coverage recently that we're focusing on making Twitter safer for all of our users. And as digital managers, as public affairs officers, it's really important that you have a safe experience on Twitter too. We're making changes and improvements to the product all the time. And so the best thing to do is to follow at Twitter Safety and at Gov on Twitter. And we're pushing out updates, announcing updates from those channels all the time. And so you want to be able to keep in the loop there. And if you have specific questions about any of the safety improvements, again, feel free to email our team and we'll keep you in the loop there. So now, how will you measure success? Again, thinking back to the tactics and the goal, what will the successful road trip look like? Did you see that amazing national park that you wanted to see? Did you get the meal that you wanted at the end of the trip? How will you know that it was a great road trip? Would you do it again? Who knows? But you need to be able to know how to measure before you know if it was successful. And so some things to look at when you're thinking about measurement is one, what tools do you need? What are the resources that you'll need to be able to measure whether it was a successful campaign or not? Two, benchmarks. Rebecca talked about this too. Maybe a news announcement is not going to get the same amount of impact as an amazing picture of a really cute dog, right? They're just two totally different things, totally different audiences, and it's impossible to benchmark them against each other. So knowing what is the benchmark for this specific campaign and why does this matter? Third, off Twitter. Remember at the beginning I talked about that 1 billion number? So thinking about what is your off Twitter strategy? Because Twitter is part of the internet, you need to think about how can your tweets be seen across the internet ecosystem. How are you going to get that there? Is your public affairs officer going to send that around to all the reporters on their media list? And being able to measure that is going to be an important metric for you. And finally, impact. What metrics and results matter the most for you? Maybe, again, these aren't quantifiable metrics. Maybe it's more qualitative. It all depends what is the original goal of this campaign. These are my analytics from the last month or so. And if you haven't seen this dashboard, you need to go to analytics.twitter.com. And that's where you can check out your own analytics for your brand or your personal Twitter account if you want. And my tweets aren't that great, so my metrics aren't that amazing. But the important point here, besides my less than great numbers, are you can actually change the date range. And so if you want to tweak month by month or check out a few months and then be able to export that data. So you can actually pull down that data and be able to cull through it all and find exactly what you want. This is super important for the first step of how you measure the impact of your campaign. Knowing where to go and knowing how to pull down that data so you can actually look at the success of your campaign. The next step is review. Did you meet the goal of your road trip? So once you've measured everything, you need to be able to analyze it and figure out, was this worth it? Was it successful? What were the key learnings? And so thinking through, again, the goals. Did the results demonstrate that the goals were met? Was what we set out to do when we got in the car and, hours ago, did we reach our destination? Was this what we were trying to do, or did we end up somewhere totally different? Second, what did we learn? This is, again, going back to Rebecca's presentation, this is the good and the bad. Was there something that maybe wasn't worth the investment from the onset? Did you try something that you're like, this didn't quite work out the way we thought it would, and this is how we would do it differently next time? Next is sharing. Who are those stakeholders that you want to share with? Who internally and externally needs to know about the successes and the failures, and how do you get that information to them? And finally, should you do this again? Was it worth it? What should you cut out next time? What should you add next time? And how do you continue this campaign? How do you turn something from that specific campaign into a more scalable effort for future campaigns? Rinse and repeat. Do it over and over again and iterate on that process and keep improving, and you'll see those metrics keep ticking up, and you'll continue to feel like it was a successful campaign, and you'll be able to keep iterating as you go on. So looking into the specifics of this, has anyone heard of JSIC? No? All right, it's not a surprise. JSIC is more than just a Twitter handle. They're actually the official host of the inauguration. Have people heard of the inauguration? Probably, right? So, Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies. Yes, the moment of realization. So they're the actual ones who put on the show. You probably watched on TV or on Twitter, or you heard it on the radio. But JSIC are the people who actually put on the production. They're the team that makes it all happen behind the scenes. And so when we met with them, we talked about how can they use Twitter, it's what's happening live. How can they use their account to make the maximum impact with their small government team to be able to bring the inauguration to more people via Twitter? How can people sitting at home be able to tap into the JSIC account and see the behind the scenes and the inauguration live via Twitter? The important thing here is that they're a small government organization. I'm talking like 2 people who did all of this. And that they wanted to have the maximum impact. So their goal from the onset, one more point, is that you can see their follower count. This was after inauguration, so after a huge spike, was 8,000. So we're not talking like 1 million. We're not talking, a huge account. But this is super important, and we'll get back to this, that your follower count, I don't want to ruin anyone's day, but your follower count may not be the most important number to look at. We'll get back to that, though. And so JSIC, their account grew a lot, but again, I just want to point out that they ended up with about 8,000 followers after the inauguration. So what was their goal? Grow JSIC audience through live production capabilities. They wanted to use Twitter to bring people closer to the inauguration via live content on Twitter. How did they get there? Well, it started with the timeline. We met with them a few months before the inauguration, and they started planning. They started iterating on what is the way that we're going to get this goal accomplished? What are the tools we need? How will we know it was successful? So the content planning, they had a content doc, they had a strategy doc, they had all these documents that started to bring together to figure out what is our plan and how are we going to get to our goal. Resource allocation, they're 2 people, remember that. How do 2 people maximize their impact on such a huge day for the country? The next step is reviewing your plans. What do you think won't be possible? What should you add to supplement the current plan? And then testing and tool enrollment. What tools are you going to use? Are you going to use Periscope Producer or Periscope Mobile? Are you going to use Twitter Studio? Are you going to live tweet? What tools do you need in your toolbox? What tools may not be worth it? What tools will have the maximum impact for their goal? Next, the event execution, so inauguration day, when they finally put all those plans into place. Then after the fun begins, right, then you can start going through all the data, analyzing what worked, what didn't work, where was our impact, what maybe 4 years from now do we want to do differently, and then finally reviewing those results. How can we share that information and those learnings for the team that's going to do this in 4 years from now? How can we share this with all the members of Congress who helped amplify our efforts? after they had that plan in place and that timeline in place, thinking through, okay, we've got our goal, and we have all these tools at our disposal. But we're, again, 2 people, so they can't do it all. There's no way that they can do all this. And of course, they're not just using Twitter, they're using Snapchat and Facebook and Instagram. So how can 2 people maximize their efforts, and what tools will help get them to their goal? So they focused on those tools. Twitter Studio. If you haven't played around with studio.twitter.com, highly recommend it. It's your way to manage all of your media in one place. So for resource-constrained organizations, this is a perfect tool to be able to manage all of your media in one place. You can publish and schedule content right from that dashboard. Snappy TV allows you to live cut and publish clips. So again, going back to their goal, they wanted to produce live production quality content, and this helped them do that. Periscope, so being able to go live right from Periscope and live stream the inauguration to bring people closer to the ceremony throughout the day. And then measurement. How would they know it was successful? So what metrics did they need to look at to know that their campaign was successful? For them, it was 3. 1, followers, 2, impressions, and 3, engagement. So we'll get back to that when we get to the results section. And now diving into the tools that they actually used to reach that goal. Polls. Have people played around with polls before on Twitter? Awesome. Polls are a really great engaging way to reach your audience and get them to engage in a slightly different way than just tweeting at them or replying to them. What I love about this is 2 things. 1, tapping into the pre-existing conversation of #TriviaTuesday. This is a conversation that happens every Tuesday on Twitter. Whether we participate or not, it's happening. It's a trending conversation that you can all tap into from your accounts. Think about how you can use polls to tap into this conversation every week. Sharing your archive material, sharing interesting content that makes it relevant for your audience. And when we think about the metrics again, you look at 14 retweets, right? You think, oh, that's pretty good. But then you see 544 votes. So the difference in the retweets to the votes is huge. Sometimes to engage in a poll, you don't need to retweet it. If Rebecca shares a tweet that she retweeted and I see it and I just want to click and voice my vote, you can do that without having to retweet it. So again, it's knowing what the right piece of measurement and what tool you want to measure so that you know if it was successful. Influencers. So what is the influencer strategy that they deployed? They had members of Congress help amplify their account and the official hashtag so that they could help build that conversation around the inauguration day. And this was all part of their plan. This wasn't by luck. This wasn't by chance. This was part of that strategy document from the get-go. Next is Periscope. So our live streaming product where you can go live from within Twitter. And they used Periscope to live stream the inauguration. But they didn't do it for the first time on Inauguration Day. They started, as part of their content plan, they started weeks before to help build that audience over time so that once Inauguration Day came, they had their audience already tuned in and already captivated so that people know, oh yeah, this is the JSIC account. They're going to be talking about inauguration content, and here's how I watched that live. And then live video clips. So once they had their live stream, they were able to use live video clips to cut and publish those clips live natively to Twitter within moments of the event happening. So when you look at Twitter and you scrolling through your feed, you're going to see things in a chronological order. It will feel weird if something is mistimed and out of place. And so they use these clips in real time to be able to reach their audience. And so if you look at down at the bottom, this was tweeted at 12:05 p.m., just minutes after the president was sworn in. This is the advantage of Twitter. It's what's happening. Remember from the beginning, JSIC account tapped into people being on Twitter, scrolling through their timeline when this was unfolding live. And this is part of the reason why this video has almost 2 million views. Remember, this is an account that's run by 2 people with 8,000 followers with almost 2 million views. That huge fan out of impact is because they were tapping into that live video content. So the day's done, they catch up on their sleep, and they're like, okay, what happened yesterday? How do we know it was successful? I barely remember it. Let's dive into the data. What metrics what metrics matter to them? Remember, it was those 3 metrics that we talked about a few slides back: followers, impressions, and engagement. So that's their spike in followers. I think it's probably pretty easy to guess when the inauguration was. And again, pointing out that they had 8,000 followers when it was all done. So their account grew tremendously, but again, it's still not a huge account. Impressions. So impressions are the actual reach of your tweets. How many people are actually seeing your content? And again, you can probably guess which day was inauguration day on this chart. An important point, though, is that it wasn't completely flat, and then a huge spike, and then flat again. You see that steady uptick as it gets closer because they were building that audience. They had that content plan in place so they could start building that audience and get people used to using the hashtag and get people used to seeing their account as kind of the official account for the inauguration. That way, when the inauguration happened, people were already tuned in. They were already ready to see the JSIG account and know what to expect from that account. And you can see that they had about 187 tweets around the inauguration for 2.7 million impressions. Again, going back to the fact that their account had 8,000 followers and 2.7 million impressions. People see this content, again, all over the internet ecosystem. So if my colleague Bridget retweets JSIC, I see her tweet, I like it, and then you see that tweet, and then you share it via DM with her, and then you email it to your friend who's a reporter, and they publish that in their story. The huge fan out of that content is what drives those huge impression numbers. And going back to the beginning, that's where that billion number comes from, of people seeing these tweets around the internet ecosystem. And this is how you do that. It's by sharing that content and building that fan out and that network effect that allows tons of people to see your content, even if they don't follow you. Will you advance, please? Thank you. So looking a little bit deeper into what happened and then how did those impressions come to be, remember their goal. Does anyone remember JSIC's goal? They wanted to drive live content. That was their whole goal, driving live content. How did they do that? With media content. You can see on this side is text content, and on the far side is media content. I think it's pretty clear that their goal was met in that impression-wise, their reach of their account, media content drove a significant portion. A majority of their impressions came from media content. Native video, photos, those live clips, and live streaming. And then engagement, looking at the average engagement of their account, the third metric that they were measuring, again, live media content on the one side, text content on the other side. You can see that on average, the media content drove a majority of the engagement. So people were engaging with that live content, sharing it with their friends, sharing it with their networks, and being able to help drive home the point that JSIC was the official account for the inaugural ceremonies as they set out in their goal. So to recap, JSIC is a perfect case study of how you implement a successful campaign strategy. But you can do it too, and it's easy, it's repeatable, it's a rinse and repeat step, and it's something that you can do over and over again to keep driving those metrics home and keep quantifying the results for your campaign. How do you get there? How do you build that successful roadmap for your campaigns? The first step is goals. It always goes back to your goal. This is the primary focus of any campaign. Defining why this matters to you, your team, your organization, your mission. Second, planning. This is your meat and potatoes of your campaign. Identifying your stakeholders, internal and external. Who needs to know about this? Who needs to be bought in? Who do you need to convince? Who do you need to persuade to be able to implement your plan? What tactics will you use? What tools will you use? Again, is this a one-to-one engagement that you want to focus on? Is this a tweet storm? Is this media content? What do you want to focus on? And what tools will you use to reach that goal? The oh crap, this is where knowing how to expect the unexpected, this is where you want to make sure that if you run into problems internally or externally, how will you navigate them? Who is the right person do you go to when you run into the issues? Who is going to be on deck if a tweet late at night is wrong and you realize it when you've already left the office and you can't get online? You need to have those protocols in place so that you know how to navigate the oh crap moments. Fourth, measurement. How will you map your metrics to your goals? What metrics matter to your goal so you can be successful in your campaign? For JSIC, that was followers, impressions, and engagements. Maybe for you, it's external press coverage, right? There are tons of different metrics to look at, but it's knowing the right one so that you know how you were successful. And then finally, reviewing. Analyzing whether your goal was met, what are the key learnings, who do you share this information with, and how do you do this next time? How do you make this better next time? What do you cut? What do you improve on? How do you take your learnings, all your data, and figure out what can we do better to make this an even better road trip next time? So with that, if there are any questions. Yeah.
So we have a couple. How does someone generate a hashtag for an event, and how are people searching for new hashtags?
What was the first part of the question?
First part of the question is, how do you generate a hashtag for an event?
For an event, when you're coming up with an event, what are the tips and tricks for coming up with a successful hashtag for an event?
I think the key point there is thinking about what will people use whether you're there or not and telling them what to use. For the inauguration, it wouldn't make sense to use hashtag iDay 2017 Trump, right? Like that's not an intuitive hashtag. Think about what people will use whether you're there or not. For inauguration, the logical ones were hashtag inauguration, hashtag inauguration day, hashtag inauguration 2017. I think any of us, if you pull out Twitter and you're thinking about, okay, here's a really amazing tweet about inauguration, what hashtag should I use? Those are probably the ones that will come to mind soonest. The other way to see what's trending is literally by going into the What's Happening tab on Twitter and seeing what people are talking about. Tapping into those conversations is a perfect way for your organization to tap into those pre-existing conversations. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Not every tweet needs 30 hashtags. Not every tweet needs 3 hashtags. Go see what's trending and tap into that conversation. I guarantee if I pull out my phone right now, today is Wednesday, I bet Wednesday wisdom is trending. And if someone wants to check and call me out on it, I will gladly take that. But that's my guess. And yesterday, I'm sure it was Trivia Tuesday. We don't, as social media managers, we don't need to reinvent the wheel every day, every week, for every campaign. Be part of the broader conversation, and that's how you help build that reach for your account. Yeah.
Is Twitter Studio a free business solution?
It is a free solution that we can whitelist partners for. So if people don't have access to it, email gov@twitter.com, and we can whitelist your account for that. And again, to emphasize why it's advantageous for everyone, it's one, a place where you can manage all your media content. So photos, videos, and GIFs all in one simple, easy-to-use dashboard. 2, you can collaborate with teams. So if you have an intern on your team who don't want to have the password to the account for obvious security reasons, you can delegate access to them, and then when their internship's over, you can revoke that access, and you never need to worry about removing your password or changing your password. 3, you can schedule content. So if you upload a video, but you don't want to tweet it in that moment, you can actually schedule it for, let's say, Saturday or later that night or whenever you want to schedule it for. Also, it's really good because we've made engineering improvements, so just stability-wise and process-wise, it's a much better tool than what we've had in the past. So again, if you don't have access when you get back to your computer, definitely check it out, or email us at gov@twitter.com, and we can make sure you get whitelisted for that. Yeah?
What was that, Twitter Business? Is that what you call this?
Twitter Studio.
Studio.
Yes, and it's desktop only, so studio.twitter.com. Was there a question in the back? Yeah?
I just wanted to know if I noticed your Periscope coverage. Oh, I noticed your Periscope coverage was really high, and I was wondering whether Twitter favors Periscope videos as opposed to other media, and the other one, the TV one, was really high.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So Twitter, unlike other platforms, isn't based on an algorithm. So that content is fully organic. It was in people's feed as the event was unfolding live. So it goes back to the core of Twitter. It's what's happening. It's what's live. People are seeing that content as the inauguration was happening. It was content that people wanted. The other way that you can help build that content is by tapping into those hashtags and those pre-existing conversations. So we don't favor content. We don't deal with content in any way like that. I will say that we helped give them a little boost from the @gov account. And so if you're working on an amazing campaign and you want a little extra boost, our account has about 2.4 million followers. So just shoot us an email and we can see what we can do to help give it that little extra nudge. Question?
Yes. How important is it to get your account verified?
Oh.
Hi, thank you. How important is it to get your account verified?
Yeah, I think verification is a way for people to recognize your account as authentic, especially for a government account. It's important. And the best way to do that is to fill out the public form at verification.twitter.com. If you run into any issues, again, shoot us an email. We can help triage that and help you get verified, the military account get verified. You get a few other advantages of being verified, such as on your mentions, on your notifications tab, you can see the verified people who are mentioning your account. And so if you're doing a big campaign, maybe one of your metrics of success is influencers tweeting about the campaign. And so you can actually sift through that in the verified tab there. So that's one advantage. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Other questions? Yeah, in the back.
Okay. Hi, I wanted to go back to just that "oh crap" hashtag really quickly, and wondered if you could share some Wednesday wisdom, which is trending. I looked. So this is trying to narrow it down, but let's say it's a typo. In your opinion, do you think it's best to delete it, to cause more attention to it by correcting it? Like, what's your experience with regards to, I guess, correcting an error on Twitter?
Yeah, and this is probably my personal opinion. I don't know if this is like the Twitter opinion, but as my experience as someone who managed digital before, in my previous job, I kind of go at it two ways. One is if you make a typo and it doesn't really have any engagement yet, delete it and just send the new tweet if it has no retweets or anything. If it already starts to get some pickup, just replying to it and saying, oops, here's the corrected link, or here's the typo. Just being honest. I think that's at the core of what people are looking for in reaching your audience and being real with your audience. It's like Rebecca was talking about, you want to be human. People expect that there are people behind these accounts. And so just admitting when you make a mistake and being upfront about it and not trying to hide it, that's probably the easiest way. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hi, Jared. It's Natasha from Air Force Social Media.
Hey.
So nice to see you again. Just to follow up regarding deleting tweets. As a government agency, we're going to talk about records later.
Yeah.
But you just need to make sure you capture that if you're going to delete it. So that's just a word to the wise.
Thank you for that. Jamie, do you have a question?
Yes, I wanted to.
Because we actually have a real example of when we had a typo. I fat finger when I was sending forward the information for the agenda for this week, and the first images that were published that looked nice for the schedule had a typo in somebody's name. Instead of deleting the whole post, which people are already engaging on, I simply commented the updated image for that day's schedule and said, good catch. So, and I think it really comes down to social media, is people want you to be authentic. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I don't hear said enough in our social media training. And that's something that the government has to shift from being canned responses and press releases to being real people. And that's something to remember.
Totally. And I think on that point is, I recommend you use a test account. We do this for @gov. We tweet from a private test account that that's about it. And it's just a way to test your content before it goes out. Get that gut check. I call it the 4 eyes rule. You gotta make sure another set of eyes see that content before it goes out. So you can just gut check each other. Again, going back to Rebecca's point, either to see if it's funny or maybe a little insensitive, or just to check for typos, make sure your graphics look good, make sure your video's playing, things like that. So it's just an easy way around getting around the deleting the tweet process.
Can you talk a little more about the Snappy TV and what's required to use it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Snappy TV is a tool that allows you to live cut and publish content to Twitter natively, and that's from a broadcast feed. So that's not going to be from your phone. It's from that broadcast feed, that live stream feed that you have. And this will be part of this is a video tool that we have and will be integrated into some of our other tools to make it a really easy process for you to just get that content from your live stream, cut it in the real time, and be able to push it out. And so if people are interested in Snappy TV, like the JSIC used it and some of our other biggest publishers on Twitter use, the DoD uses it, the State Department uses it, the White House uses it. So if you're interested, just shoot us a note and we can help you get onboarded and walk through the process there. Yeah. Questions, Beth?
I have a couple questions from the online viewers. One of them is, are there any plans to offer closed captioning for Section 508 compliance on live feeds?
Yeah, I think our video team is working on a caption process for our video products. They're constantly iterating the video products and all of our media content. And so that's something that we've brought up before, because obviously Section 08 is super important for government and a rule. And so we want to be able to help make your jobs easier. So that's something that we're definitely looking at.
Regardless of the number of characters or hashtags, can you comment on the power of the image IoT grab attention on Twitter?
I'm not sure what that's asking.
That makes two of us. IoT. Twitter accounts.
Verify Twitter accounts. That's a great question. Again, there's a public form, so anyone can submit any account, verification.twitter.com. If it's an official account that, for whatever reason, gets denied, again, these are humans who work on these things, so sometimes things slip through the cracks. Email us, and we can help push it along to the right folks. But your best bet is to file that ticket at verification.twitter.com. Team will handle that. If you run into problems, just let us know. We can help you out. Other questions? Other questions? Cool. Great. Thanks so much for having me.